Hello, everyone. All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining our session on building an effective care circle. We will be discussing just that. And yeah, we are excited to get to talk to you. So I just want to introduce our hosts. So we have Florentina Precup, who is the Philips Cares Director of Product Management at Philips Lifeline. And then myself, Portia Singh, who is a Senior Scientist in Philips Research North America.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. And Portia, very excited to spend the next hour on this very important topic.
Yes. So just a little bit of housekeeping. You have a section for Q&A in Zoom, or you can go on Facebook Live and also make sure to type in the chat. But if you have any questions, go ahead and submit those, and we'll try to answer some along the way or maybe at the end of the session. So what are we going to talk about today? Today we will discuss what is a care circle. Then we'll start to dive into who should be in your care circle and what type of qualities they should possess, or what we feel they should possess. And then we'll give you an introduction to Philips Cares, which is a tool that we have that allows for care circle management. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in, and I'm going to ask you, Florentina, what is a care circle?
It's something that happens to us quite naturally, but we don't think a lot about it. And quite typically, people involved in a care circle would be your family or your friends, even your neighbors, or people you know, that as someone needs care of any sort or some form of support and help, people get involved because they're there for you and they wanna do good. And of course, this is one side of the equation. We often talk about these people, your family, your friends, again, even neighbors, or as informal caregivers. These are the people that give a hand without being paid, and that's what typically makes them informal. And maybe they have, or they may not have any training to do care. However, there's another side of the equation, which are more the professional caregivers, and those would be maybe social workers or paid aides or various specialists and MDs that are engaged and work together also with the family to make sure a loved one is safe and well.
So I guess it seems like care circles are just kind of around us naturally, you said. Can I be part of more than one care circle?
Well, let's think about it. How many people do you care for these days, especially with some extra need as we go through this pandemic?
Yeah, so I'd say my son. So I have a care circle for him, and then also my grandmother, who's far away. I guess I can consider that I'm in her care circle because I do try to talk to her as much as possible. But can you be in a care circle without physically being present with the person?
Well, I think that it depends on how you are involved. And most certainly, as you just highlighted on your grandma, that's true for my grandpa as well, and also for part of my family and my dad. I'm miles and miles away. However, I do appointments, or I help out financially. I stay informed and make sure to check in almost on a daily basis. So I definitely feel there's people in your situation that are living just in a different place that do contribute a lot and make the difference in people's life, despite being not physically right there. And that's especially true, again, more and more as we do need to social distance these days. And people find very creative ways to be together and be there, even if they're not physically right next to one another.
Okay, okay. So we're here today wanting to see how we could, our tips on how to build an effective care circle. So I guess my second question that I want to pose is, who should be in your care circle, and what qualities should they possess?
I think you're prompting quite an important point of reflection. And again, I'll go back to with my earlier point, and let's think through this together. There's definitely a lot of just nature and friendship and companionship or families evolving. There are people that will be there, and you don't necessarily think about them as care circle or caregivers. So most of us, myself included, will have some people or some form of network of support and people around that are already by default the care circle. The opportunity is to think about it and be proactive about, am I involving everyone that can lend a hand? Is everyone involved the right? Are they the right people to be involved? So most certainly, most people, whether they're going through a health issue or they're, as you said, they're children, or they're going to older age, most people will have some form of network of support. They will have a care circle to depart from. I think your question on what qualities should they possess, it's a very meaningful one for a point in time of reflection where each and every one of us can look around and see, well, who's involved, and can I be more proactive about it, and who should I involve?
Yeah, and I also think, you know, I definitely agree with that, and also want to add that a lot of times people are becoming caregivers without having an explicit decision to do so. A lot of times it's a nature of families, friendships, and how as human beings we react to wanting to help when we see someone in need. And so people may decide to become or start to become a caregiver and be very happy and, you know, helping out does not provide any level of stress. But there also may be individuals who may end up being caregivers, but it is causing as well a burden. Maybe they don't have as much time. Maybe they are not confident in their abilities to help to the degree that they would like to. Do you have any suggestions for people that may be in that latter stage where they're kind of into the caregiving, but they may feel a bit overwhelmed by it?
Yeah, I think particularly for those people, this reflection point is quite important. So thinking proactively, who can actually help and who can help the caregivers themselves is a further out question. So if we switch, I feel we do switch a bit gears, and I'd love to hear from your example. You just mentioned your grandma, who all is involved. Definitely you're far away and you're helping out in whichever way you can. But I do expect you have a mix of people that are local and yourself further away, and there'll be different qualities. Before we jump into qualities, you want to share your example? How does it work for you and your family?
Yeah, so with my grandmother, it's my dad's mom. And my mom is a respiratory therapist of many, many years. And so she's kind of the, between her and one of my aunts there, who's a registered nurse, they're the healthcare professionals of our family. And so she typically does a lot of the doctor's appointments. So I would say one of her primary ways that she helps is with transportation. That being said, we have a family that lives right across the street, and they'll help out with day-to-day things, as well as companionship. So She has a pretty big circle around her. She's even, my grandmother herself over years has been caregivers to her friends or her sisters. So caregiving isn't one-sided, and receiving care is also not one-sided. We can be doing both at the same time. But I will say, so maybe I should bring in this other question, because I think it's related to what qualities a person should possess. I think it also depends on what you need someone to actually do. So if you need transportation, and your son-in-law likes to commute by bike, he may not be the appropriate person to bring in as the transportation person for your care circle, but he might be very, very awesome when it comes to I don't know, cleaning up, or handyman work, or even grocery shopping. So what what is your suggestion for people who are trying to figure out, what do they even need to have happen? What do they need help for before they start building their care circle? Because it seems like you have to know that first as well.
Yeah, it does. Reflecting a bit on your example, and I'll go to that in a second. It does need to build on a single foundation, which probably is the only constant thing across all care circles we've seen in our experience, which is trust. So we're talking about people that you trust with something, right? And then and that there'll be different degrees of that trust. And that is the point of departure. And reflecting on your example, and then key questions to ask people or to ask yourself. It's a meeting of what can people do from their specific situation and their abilities, and what is the need, and the need will change for sure. So it's good to keep this or accept that it will be dynamic. There's a few basic things that are common topics. So think about if you need urgent help and there's a critical situation, who is best placed to offer that help? Is it someone that lives close by within a 50-minute range and can actually drive over? Is it someone that maybe your neighbor that can just walk over? So definitely, as you think about maybe the most critical situations, and how can you best leverage and build this care circle in a meaningful way, there's definitely an element of yes, also location and being close. When you think about maybe getting to places, like you said, doctor appointments and maybe meetings or whatever your schedule looks like, you might want to consider people that have flexibility in their schedule, and maybe have jobs that allow them to help out without overburdening or stretching them into a territory that starts to conflict with their day-to-day life. Of course, looking into more medical issues, there's a fine balance to trust people that can help out and make a judgment call where that crosses into a professional issue, and call for advice to a medical professional.
Yeah. And I guess I also want to add that, sometimes we think of along relationship lines. So the closest people to you from a kin standpoint, I'm sorry, I'm from Louisiana, so we say kin, but family standpoint, where you're thinking, okay, son, daughter, maybe sister, brother, but you may have people that are not blood relatives that you may trust with the medical appointments and helping you to, just hear out the doctor and make decisions. So I do encourage people to look more broadly and really ask those questions of, who do I trust with this particular aspect? Are they willing to help out in that way? And sometimes asking for help may feel uncomfortable on both sides. And so bringing it up in conversation, asking for specific help, or even saying, I've been having a little trouble getting to the grocery store recently because, I want to kind of avoid crowds. If you're ever going to the grocery store, if you let me know, maybe I can have you pick up some things for me. So that could also kind of test, not test, but have an easier entry into becoming part of your care circle. If that person is not one of the people that are kind of like traditionally thought of as. It's also okay to have different relationships with the people that are close to you and have them help you in different ways. I'd say one big quality is, and this is for a person as a care recipient, but also in looking at caregivers, is how well do you communicate with that person? And do they communicate well as also? Because a lot of times, many things can be avoided, fixed, cleared up by communication and having effective communication. And so there's the trust aspect, yes, but also can you communicate well with that person too, especially if they're on your emergency list where something happens and you need them to be able to respond quickly and maybe be your proxy or a voice of you, a second set, oops, there goes my AirPod, a second set of ears like these, a second set of ears to actually, process medical information for you. So
you do bring a very important point, Portia, and I want to stress that out on communication. Yes, indeed, it is a factor in making sure there's someone that you can actually collaborate with, right? There is a key element in, well, maybe before or core to asking questions or asking yourself who to involve. There's a main communication point there, which is to ask for help. And very often, unfortunately, what we've seen from our long experience in helping and caring for older adults is that there are so many more people that could help out and overall make also caregivers feel less thinly spread, but they don't realize there's a need for help. They don't realize they can contribute, or they wouldn't be very proactive themselves. But once they are asked, they are very, very open and very, very engaged, and definitely don't feel it as a burden. But as individuals, we do perceive we don't want to be a burden, or we're extra cautious with other people's time, and very often help is just one question away. So I would say at the bottom of choosing the right people, yes, there is trust, but there's also just a plain be open to ask people for that help.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And actually, we're going to segue into what we really want to show you all, which is Philips Cares. And I will have give the floor. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. I'm sorry. I will give the floor to Florentina, who will describe Philips Cares and actually show it to you. So I will stop sharing my screen.
All right, I'll get to sharing in a second. I will quickly introduce by saying Philips Cares is a service that aims to give the right support at the right time. And right now it is available to Lifeline customers, and definitely simplifies bringing your care circle together. So I'm gonna start sharing my screen and show you how that is actually done. I will show you the mobile app for Philips Cares, and run you through an example of how would that care circle be created in a specific situation of a particular family. And you'll start seeing from my screen real quick. So in this very specific situation and family, you see Mary Jones here, who's a Lifeline subscriber. And her day-to-day point of contact and care is Susan. So I'll play the role of Susan, her daughter. What's important is, as Mary starts to navigate through a more a bit of changes in her lifestyle, getting a little more frail, and also very cautious to ask for help. Mary and Susan do work together, and of course, as son, as daughter and mother, they do talk on a daily basis. But they also have a point of reflection of making sure that everyone is involved, has a very easy way to collaborate and to stay engaged. So in using Philips Cares, what Susan does with Mary's consent, she adds her brother Mark. Like Portia, Mark is actually out of state, but he's the one to schedule appointments, and he's the sounding board for any issue that comes up. A bit more closer to Mary's home, there's also my son. So in this case, I'm Susan. My son David, who's Mary's grandson, goes to grandma's house at least every few days. He does the grocery. He's mostly shopping for his breakfast that grandma cooks. So that makes it a win-win. And definitely, he doesn't feel like it's a burden to do that, because he's getting a lot of quality time with grandma in return. Now this is quite a common tiny family, right? Of closely knit, even though they're not physically close to each other. Over time, Mary does form quite a fond friendship with one of the neighbors. So at that point in time, you'll see Amy, her neighbor, become part of the care circle, as she spends a lot of time with Mary and is very eager to also help the family who are not there all the time be more aware if anything goes wrong or out of ordinary. So this is a tiny snapshot of how the care circle can look like, and how Philips Cares allows you to form it. What I didn't show you very briefly was this, basically this plus button, where the caregiver is, or whoever else in the care circle gets added. What's very important though, and I'll go real quick to the full view of the care circle. What's really important is the value of being together in this care circle. So when they are all of them, they do participate in this care circle in Philips Cares. One of the most important benefits is having the same information in real time. So what you'll see as Susan, I get different notifications and information that is relevant for myself as a primary caregiver, but I would also share important updates with the rest of the care circle. So you see here, I added a note to let everyone know that well, unfortunately, there's been an outreach to Lifeline in a critical situation, and that was driven by a fall. And I do share a bit more in depth what happened, and keep track of that such that everyone is on the same page. Now, this is very important because, again, back to the who all is in the care circle, oftentimes people cannot help unless they are aware there's a situation to help. So this helps them be on the same page without the need of maybe once in a year family meeting, or needing to call each other in rounds of updates. Everyone has the same information in real time. And what we've seen is that that's particularly important because oftentimes, as Susan, the Mary's daughter, I forget, or I may not even think of to ask Mark, who's far away, for something. But having the same information and understanding what's happening, he's actually been very proactive to offer his help, and went way above and beyond in things that I wouldn't have expected, like ordering things online and whatnot. So like new rugs in this case.
So Tina, Philips Cares is a mobile app. This looks like an iPhone, maybe. What other platforms is it available on?
Well, that's a great question, because the core of having a care circle and have the dynamic over time is have flexibility. Our customers can use this on iPhones. They can also use them they can use it on Android smartphones, but also simply access it via a web browser on a computer. So whichever your preferred means is, there's an easy way into to access and start building the online version of your care circle, essentially.
Okay, and this is available to Lifeline subscribers and their families now?
Yes, absolutely. So the ones of you that already use Lifeline can simply go to your to the App Store or to Android or to cares.philips.com and get started. If you are not a customer, I'm happy to obviously talk about the right way to start with Lifeline and Philips Cares together.
Yep. And if you do want to learn more about Philips Lifeline to get that service so that you can access Philips Cares, if you call this number, this is a dedicated line for promotions. If you mention code Y9K7 as being a participant of this webinar, you can get free activation and free shipping. So if you go to lifeline.philips.com, you can look at all of the offerings we have for our personal emergency response button devices, our medical alert services. And you can get all the information you need about Philips Cares. And hopefully, now that you've joined this webinar, you have a better idea, or at least have a verified strategy for how you will approach creating your care circle. It's never too early to do so. Don't think that you need to be very much dependent on people for every aspect of your life. But you know, it's good to have that, I would say, that squad together so that you know that at any time's notice, you will be cared for and you will be protected. So do you have any final words for us, Florentina?
I think I will just reemphasize your points on it takes a village. Oftentimes you will be part of that village for someone else. So be very open in obviously asking for help, lending a hand. Make sure you trust people you do that with, and know that there are tools out there like Philips Cares to make it really easy for you to engage and collaborate with others.
Awesome. So I am going to do one last push to ask if anyone has any questions. And if not, we will go ahead and end here. Oh, one question. So Brenda asked, is there a cost for this service if someone is a Lifeline subscriber?
So if you're a Lifeline subscriber, this is already included with your service. So provided you're a subscriber, you can just go ahead and get started. You will not incur any additional cost.
Yep. All righty. Well, we are at 1:33.
I will, to end on a jokey note, and you will see it live because you can check your bill on in the app as well.
Yes, so you can manage the subscription as well as manage your care circle. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us today in your Friday morning or afternoon. I hope you have a great weekend and stay safe. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to this number. And yeah, happy Friday.
Have a great weekend, everyone.